Good morning, and welcome to Glowstone Trucking Solutions and Clean Fleet's 2017 Regulatory and Safety Update. So we have a registered 100 participants today. It's great. And we also have more than 40 of you joining us online, so welcome to you as well. So why are we here today? Ground transportation is one of the most heavily regulated industries in the United States, and the task of ensuring your compliance and safety is above board takes a great deal of effort. And unfortunately, should you slip in one of those safety and compliance efforts, not only do you lose the ability to provide for your families, but you're also compromising the ability to provide cargo and finish projects for your clients. So that's why Glowstone Trucking Solutions and Clean Fleet exist. We're here to make compliance our business so you don't have to. Essentially, what we do is we reduce the cost of maintaining your compliance and safety programs, and then we take your current safety and compliance programs and make them more efficient and more accountable. So we want all of you to succeed in your 2017 compliance and safety goals. And we're confident that the information that you gain here today is going to be helpful for you to do so. Now, before we begin, there's somebody very special here who I'd like to thank and recognize. Skip Nash, are you here?
No, I'm not here.
Yes, he is. Skip Nash, could you please stand up? I want everybody to give a big round of applause to Skip Nash. So this event was started by Skip a number of years ago, and because he saw and heard the concerns from safety and compliance professionals in the trucking industry that they were not getting actionable and accurate information upon upcoming regulations and other government events that could affect their business. I know that he's already provided many of you with sage counsel advice over the years, and Glowstone Trucking Solutions and Clean Fleet are very grateful to carry on this event. Thank you, Skip. So we also want to recognize some other important folks who are here today, which we encourage you to get to know because they're great resources as well, too. John Salick. John, you're here. So John Salick is the current safety and compliance consultant for the Oregon Trucking Association, and those are folks you should definitely talk to as well, too. And was also its director of safety for over 20 years. And before that, he worked for almost 3 decades in operations and safety. John is another one of the gurus of the DOT and FMCSA compliance world, and definitely somebody you want to know. Mike Meredith. Mike, are you here? So that's Mike. Some of you may remember Mike as the former president of the Oregon Trucking Association, and along with Bob Russell, which I'm sure many of you also know, is one of the best lobbyists this industry has ever had here in the state of Oregon. Mike later went on to have a very successful career with Haney Truck Lines, and he basically transformed their safety, compliance, and recruiting programs into a nationally recognized institution. And finally, Kyle. Kyle, are you here? So Kyle's back there. Kyle came all the way from Ontario, or thereabouts, to meet with us today. And Kyle's with Geotab. Geotab is an internationally recognized and internationally utilized telematics solution. They are changing the way that fleets manage their vehicles. He's definitely another person you want to speak with today, especially as the ELD mandate is coming up. Unfortunately, Warren Simpson was supposed to be here to join us today. He will not be able to be here due to illness. Also, we have Kevin Anderson. Kevin, if you want to just raise your hand, let everybody know you're there. So Kevin is a partner at the law firm of Anderson Yamada here in Portland and has been a great friend of the trucking industry. He's also a well-known speaker at many industry events, and I would definitely encourage you to go to Glowstone's website and check out our videos from last year's conference. You can see his presentation on sleep apnea, which was excellent. Kevin's going to be talking with us today about some of the bills that are going to be going through Oregon's legislative session. Finally, Dave Gray. Dave Gray is the president of Glowstone Trucking Solutions. He is also the president of NATSA, the North American Safety Transportation Association. And basically, he is an industry expert on IRP and IFTA compliance. Also, we have Tony Hugo. Tony Hugo is our Director of Safety Services. And Tony also has a background as an enforcement officer for ODOT and also inspector for ODOT. He's going to be talking to us essentially about what the ELD mandate is going to look like in the field for enforcement. Finally, we want to introduce some of our sponsors for today's events. We have Green Truck Financial Services. Great. We also have Petrocard here with us today. We have Pacific Fleet Inspections. Jordan, you want to just raise your hand, let them know you're there. Choice One Insurance. Andre's over there as well, too. And finally, we have Geotab joining us. All these folks have great information to share with you. I know many of them are also doing some raffles, some drawings, so definitely go and talk with them. So the way this is going to work is that each of our speakers are going to have about 20 minutes to discuss their topics. Then we're going to leave about 10 minutes for questions on each topic. If you're not able to get your question answered, please just wait till the break. We can answer it then, or come and see our speaker between the talks or after the talks. For anybody who's listening online, you should have a dialogue bar where you can type in your questions. Feel free to type those in there, and we'll also try to get them answered either today during the conference or afterwards as well. So, two last things. We're also going to have our lunch and learn after the conference. If you do have some time to stay, come get a free lunch, learn a little bit more about some telematics solutions, and also if you have more detailed specific questions that we can't answer during the course of this talk, we can answer them at that time. So two last items, one comment and one question. First of all, can everybody silence their cell phones? I know it's kind of dumb. We're all safety managers, and so you're the first person that people have to call, but we want to make sure that our speakers aren't disturbed. And then finally, who's curious about what the Trump administration is going to do to affect trucking? That's it? Only 5 of you? Okay, that's fine. So I thought that rather than addressing those sort of speculations during our speakers' Q&A sessions, we could just go ahead and speculate about it right now. So first of all, ELDs. Anybody curious about that, where it's going? Okay. Well, Glowstone's position is that it's not going anywhere. It's here to stay, and basically Trump has said through his chief of staff, Reince Priebus, that any regulations related to, quote, health, safety, finance, or national security matters will not be subject to President Trump's hiring freeze or freeze any new regulations. The other thing to remember is that the ATA has really put their weight behind this, and most of the other major carriers. Chances are it's probably not going to get moved. Next one, Drug and Alcohol Clearinghouse. Does everybody know about that, or at least have some knowledge of it? Have heard about it? Okay. So Glowstone and Clean Fleet believe that this effort is going to move forward, and its full implementation is not going to take place until 2023, and that is part of the law. Basically, large and small carriers have been calling for this sort of regulation for a long time, and it's going to be very hard to convince somebody that they ought not to screen their driver applicants for past drug and alcohol use when they're driving, let's say an 80,000-pound lethal weapon on a daily basis. We expect this is going to stay as well. And finally, the unified registration system. Has everybody heard of this? This is coming now? Okay. So FMCSA has said many times that this is still going to stay in place. The only thing that's holding it up at this point is IT and engineering support. Once the feds can get that bandwidth and provide that support to the FMCSA, we expect that this new registration system is going to move forward. So what are some things that might get changed under the Trump administration? Who here goes to California? Okay, a few of you. Y'all like the BIT program and lots of all the emission standards you have to comply with? It's wonderful, isn't it? Okay. So we expect under the Trump administration, any new emission standards that are going to be proposed to the trucking industry are probably not going to move forward. Trump administration sees environmental regulation as a public safety concern, first and foremost. So unless they can actually demonstrate that not implementing these new emission standards is going to harm public health or safety in some way, we expect it's not going to move forward. But not only that as well, too, is that fuel efficiency is a market demand. It's going to happen whether the government mandates it or not. And finally, the other thing that we think is going to move forward is the safety fitness determination. Who's heard of the SFD? Anybody? Okay. So the FSD is actually the third phase of the CSA program, the Compliance, Safety, and Accountability that they implemented back in 2006? 2010. Yeah. And essentially where they're at with that is that the industry is already fairly skeptical of the results that are being produced by the SMS system. That's those basic scores that measures your carrier's safety and accountability on the road, and it's supposed to be a predictor of your crash and on-road compliance. Because the industry is skeptical of this, expect them to be skeptical of the SFD moving forward, especially because the FMCSA is going to use this data from a study they're finishing, and we expect it to finish in March, to justify this new phase of the program. This new phase of the program will essentially take it from satisfactory, conditional, and unconditional, and move it to simply one rating, unfit. And this rating can now be assigned, if this does move forward, without a full safety and compliance review. If you have 2 of your basics above the threshold and you meet a couple of other requirements, the government can simply say, you are unfit to operate, you have 90 days to get in to remove this status or to comply with a corrective action plan. So what happened before is that you had to submit a CAP letter after your audit. They're simply going to ask for the CAP letter ahead of time. That might get turned over. We don't know. But we know that the industry is definitely against it, and that they're generally still very skeptical of the way in which the FMCSA is grading characters. So with that in mind, we're going to go ahead and start. And our first speaker today is going to be Dave Gray. Again, Dave is the president of Lowstone Trucking Solutions, and he's going to be talking to us about the good, the bad, and the ugly of the ELD mandate.